Welcome to the Compliance Officers Playbook podcast. Imagine this scenario. It is a Monday morning. The coffee hasn't quite kicked in yet.
Not yet.
You're a compliance officer at a major financial institution. You've got robust systems in place. You have, millions of pounds invested in screening software.
All the bells and whistles.
Exactly. You have teams of analysts. And yet you wake up to a penalty notice from the regulator. And it's not because you knowingly laundered money for a cartel.
No.
Not because you willfully ignored some massive red flag, but because of a typo. A few letters, different in a name, and suddenly you are on the hook.
I'm in a cold sweat at 3 a.m.
It is the absolute nightmare scenario.
And unfortunately for the compliance team at the Bank of Scotland, part of Lloyds Bank Group, that nightmare became a very public reality.
Today, we are taking a microscope to a case that is, frankly, a wake-up call for the entire industry. We're talking about the £160,000 penalty imposed on the Bank of Scotland by the Office of Financial Sanctions Implementation, or OFSI.
Right.
Now, I know what some people might be thinking, £160,000 for a bank the size of Lloyd's? That sounds like a rounding error.
It does.
It sounds like the change found in the sofa cushions of the boardroom.
It might look that way on a balance sheet, but you have to look past the number. You really do. The implications of this case are just massive. It is not just about the money.
No.
It's about the strict liability world we are operating in now. It's about how a designated person, a former Russian governor, walked into a branch, opened an account with a UK passport, and moved over £77,000 while the screening systems stayed completely silent.
It's incredible.
It exposes a structural fragility that I think a lot of compliance officers are secretly, terrified of.
It sounds impossible, doesn't it? But it happened. So here is our roadmap for this discussion. We're going to dissect the Bank of Scotland case, how Dmitrii Ovsiannikov slipped through the net.
And we really need to get into the mechanics of that failure transliteration, fuzzy logic, and the dangerous gap between PP lists and sanctions lists.
Absolutely. We are also going to widen the lens a bit to look at the OFSI annual review for 2024-25, which gives us the big picture of where enforcement is heading.
Specifically, that shift to intelligence-led enforcement. That's a huge one.
And finally, we will break down some really practical takeaways from ACAMS on how to keep your risk assessments from, gathering dust on a virtual shelf.
Sounds good.
So buckle up. We're going into the weeds on this one. Let's start with the case itself. The Bank of Scotland versus the typo. Set the scene for us.
Okay, so the timeline is just crucial here. We are looking at February 2023. A customer walks into Halifax, which is, of course, a trading division of the Bank of Scotland, to open a standard personal current account.
Right. And usually this is a routine, low-risk event. People open accounts every single day.
Every day.
Yeah.
But this wasn't just any customer.
No. And based on the reporting from The Guardian and City AM, we know exactly who this was.
Yes. The individual was Dmitrii Ovsiannikov. He's a former high-ranking Russian official. He served as the governor of Sevastopol in Russian-occupied Crimea and was also deputy minister in the Russian government.
So not a small fish.
Not at all. He had been a designated person, or DP, on the UK sanctions list since late 2020, following Brexit. And he was on the EU list even before that, since 2017.
So a very high-profile target, someone who should theoretically set off every single alarm bell in the building. He opens the account on February 6th, 2023. What happens next?
Well, this is where it starts. Over the next 2.5 weeks, specifically between February 8th and February 24th, 24 payments were processed through this new account.
24 payments. And the total value?
The total value was £77,383.39.
Okay, so nearly £80,000 flows through the account in a fortnight. That's a significant velocity of money for a brand new personal account, regardless of who owns it.
It is.
And the core question is just how? How does a designated person, a known DP, open an account in 2023 without the system locking it down immediately?
This is where it gets fascinating and terrifying for compliance professionals.
Right.
He didn't use a Russian passport. He used a UK passport.
He's a British citizen.
Ovsiannikov is a British citizen, but the name on that UK passport had a spelling variation compared to the name on the OFSI consolidated list.
Let's drill down into that variation, because when I hear spelling mistake, I think of someone typing an A instead of an E, but this was a bit more complex than that, right?
Much more complex.
This gets into the science of naming conventions.
It does. According to the penalty notice, there were 4 specific differences. There was a changed character in the forename, an additional character in the forename, a missing middle name, and a changed character in the surname.
4. Okay, can you give us an example of what that looks like in practice? Because I think this is where the rubber really meets the road for the technology.
Well, we don't have the exact spelling from the passport in the report, but we know the principles of transliteration, converting Cyrillic Russian characters into Latin English characters.
Right.
So Dmitrii on the sanctions list might end in 2, but on his passport it might have been Dmitrii with a Y, or maybe Dmitrii with just an I.
And the surname Ovsiannikov.
Same principle. It might have been spelled Ovsiannikov with a Y instead of an I. These are tiny changes.
Right. And for a human looking at those two names side by side, it is obviously the same person. Dmitrii versus Dmitri, it's the same name.
Of course.
If I saw that on a guest list for a wedding, I wouldn't think it was two different people.
Exactly. And the penalty notice explicitly states that these character changes are common equivalents in Russian to English translation. This wasn't some sophisticated alias or the fake identity. It was just a different but very common way of writing the same name.
But the bank's screening system.
It didn't reconcile those changes. It didn't connect the dots.
So on February 6th, the account opens. The screening system runs the name from the passport against the sanctions list. The computer says no match because the letters don't line up perfectly.
And that's it.
Silence.
The silent opening. Exactly. No automatic sanctions alert was triggered. The account was open, active, and completely unrestricted. The gate was just left wide open because the name didn't quite fit the lock the way the computer expected.
But here is the irony, and this is the part that really hurts when you read the report. The bank systems did spot him.
They did.
Just not the sanction system.
That is the twist, isn't it?
If you're loving this conversation and want to be part of keeping it going, the best way to support the show is to become a paid subscriber on Apple Podcasts. You'll get access to the full episode, plus every deep dive we do. Head to Apple Podcasts, search Compliance Officers Playbook, and join our growing community today. Invite listeners who love this show to become a paid subscriber today for $5 USD, and get full access to all premium episodes packed with insights, stories, and value they won't find anywhere else. Thank you for joining us on the Deep Dive.